This is Closer by Dennis Cooper. Part 2. David, Inside Out. I'm a talentless but popular young singer, and I have the feeling someone is watching me. I use the term loosely because I have few feelings, and they're too simple, like primary colors. Fear is the basic one lately, no thanks to my nemesis. It could be male, female, imaginary, ghost. I'm not big on subtleties, poring over my every move, whether I watch TV, eat breakfast, ride a bike, sleep, shower, go to school. It's hard to describe the sensation. Maybe rape or demonic possession come close. I wouldn't know, and I don't really care, to be perfectly honest. The only thing that distracts me is fame, as in being on stage or recording or having my photograph taken for one of those teen magazines I'm the superstar of. I really am their star, meaning I'm on the covers, the fold-out posters, and most of their articles focus on how great I look. I must be a great person, right? I think it follows. So why is this nemesis after me? What does it... I can't... Oh, never mind. Sometimes I know how those Indians felt when they'd tie up some beautiful kid and then invite God to take him or her like a Valium. That's why I'm happy I'm famous for what I'm so famous for. Being gorgeous, I mean. It helps me believe in myself and not worry that I'm just a bunch of blue tubes inside a skin wrapper, which is what everyone actually is. I am gorgeous. That's not a brag, I can tell. People tell me so. I'm also friendly and sweet and naive, except I do tend to talk too much and I lie all the time. But you have to tell lies when somebody's judging you every minute. You have to cover yourself up with some kind of camouflage, even if that means bullshitting yourself. I do, in any case. I turn my head and take a look at the boy to my left, who has been staring at me this whole time. Of course, he immediately glances away, to make me think I'm mistaken, that he was daydreaming, or I've been imagining everything. Maybe his eyes are the nemesis. That's the obvious solution, except he's not looking at me anymore, and I still feel all prickly and edgy and paranoid. Besides, I think whoever's watching me is older. I can't believe guys in my age group hate other guys in this particular way. You know, like, I want to force you to realize you're nothing special. It's too evil. I can't tell if these students despise me, or if they're so overly awed by the presence of someone this famous, they can't decide what they could say that wouldn't sound idiotic. I hate their silence, in any case, and I wish school would be over. It almost is, actually, now that I look at the clock. I watch the time and nothing else until the exact point when school ends officially, then I stack up the textbooks I'd tossed on my desk a while back, fit them under my right arm, and walk towards the spot where my dad's chauffeur always picks me up. I'm walking straight ahead at the rectangle of sunlight that marks the end of the hallway. It looks like my bed because that's where I wish I was. Either that or a stage, where I'd also like to be, or a photographer's studio. Ditto. Sometimes when the afternoon sun hits my face, I make believe a spotlight has been trained on me. For those glorious couple of seconds, I don't care if someone can see through my image, or even tries to. But I sure feel those evil eyes now, virtually setting my clothes on fire if they want me dead or whatever so much. I'm running, even though people point and it never helps anyway. I wish I could understand why I was picked for harassment. There are millions of people as cute as yours truly. I just got lucky in terms of my fame. It could have been that boy right there by the bus bench, or someone in China. Maybe he feels it too. I mean the boy I just mentioned with dirty blonde hair and a girlfriend. But he doesn't look spooked or antsy or anything. He looks as calm as a lake. Staring at him even lulls me a little. Then all of a sudden his arm sticks out like the corpse's arm that stuck out of the lake in that movie Deliverance. He points at me and makes a snide remark I can't quite hear. And his girlfriend laughs. Where's the chauffeur? Sometimes I think he arrives late on purpose to torture me. Or else my dad tells him to. My dad actually thinks if I get too much love, I might never mature. Or something. He doesn't have any idea how cold these students can be, and how sensitive I am to coldness. I think they call guys like me hothouse flowers, because we can only exist in controlled situations. Stardom, in my case. But it's hard here at school because nobody cares. They think... I don't know what they think. All I know is I can't stand the pressure another minute. It's different when I'm alone. In my bedroom, let's say. Then I just close my eyes and everything flies very quietly into the darkness inside my head, like my thoughts are a concert hall. At the moment, the world is too huge and unruly for me. Either that or I'm terrified I'll see someone or something I don't want to think about. So I'm shielding my eyes and counting seconds off. You want to know what it's like? It's like when I was a kid, I'd wake up in the night feeling positive there was a murderer in my room. But if I covered my head with a pillow and lay ultra still, I'd realize that he couldn't... Hey, great. There's the chauffeur now. That's better. Let's see. Where am I? How about a photographer's studio? Blinding lights, backdrops, metallic clicks, all that. I can't see the face of the man who's been hired to perfect me, only a small piece of convex glass, in which I come face to face with my distorted reflection. I look kind of faint. Still, its contour soothes me like nothing else. I can block that annoying thing out of my mind for a while. It's just one pair of eyes among millions I'm trying to concentrate on. Maybe they're more intense than most eyes. But they're drowned just like everything else at the moment beneath the delight oozing out of mine. The photographer won't stop perfecting me. He says, smile. I smile. He says, look sexy. I try. He just announced that I look too emotional. I think, how is that possible? I say, I'm sorry. I close my eyes for a time, then shake my head violently side to side. This succeeds in emptying out my expression, but now my hair is a fright. A lady is called from the sidelines and brushes my bangs back, then all the way forward, then gradually into place. This interlude gives me a chance to sing, so I will, in a rusty voice. Here goes nothing. This is a song about how great I look. First, my hair, which is brown, neatly cut, and, I'll check, smells of herbal shampoo. The aroma's outdoorish. I inherited puffy blue eyes from my mother. I'll get them lifted someday. For now they seem sort of lonely. My nose is petite, but who cares as long as my lips, which are truly enormous, they look like a tiny skinned butt, don't get too saggy. My face is oval-shaped, naturally. My body's short, thin, but healthy. It hangs from my shoulders like a clean leotard. It is just dead on its feet at the moment. The end. Okay, I have time for one last, positively last number. It's about sex, so you younger ones can cover your ears, and it stars an A&R man for a big record company. One day he's walking downtown when he comes on a naive young boy who is thinking out loud to himself. The man does a double take. The boy thinks, he's nice to have noticed me. They drive to the man's place. After a couple of beers, he asks the boy to remove his clothes. Then he pores over the body. He doesn't want to disturb it, reinvent it, or try to wear it himself. He wants to know where that innocent voice could have come from. It came from a perfect design. The end. Right on cue, I'm myself again. Or I look like what people expect. The photographer puts down his camera, walks up to me, takes a hand mirror out of his pocket, and makes up 2 lines of cocaine, which I snort, then smile into his lens again, my eyes ecstatic and glittery, like they're reflecting a million children's. A few more shots, another snort, then I sit at a table directly across from the editor of a best-selling teen magazine, and sign some 8x10 photos of me that will appear in the next issue. I write, "Let's run away, love David," and "You're all I have, love you, David," and "Thinking of you, kisses, David," over and over. I don't mean any of this. I'm only sincere when I forget who I am. Then I can stand or lie or whatever I wish, and sing like my room is a huge microphone, and I, the mouth of America's youth, am belting out its romanticized lyrics. But my life's become more and more maze-like, troublesome to define, yet relentlessly same-ish. I bounce between home, school, photographer, microphone, home, microphone, school, photographer, microphone, home, and etc. I've learned a lot about one confined aspect of life, but, as with all minor artists, my subject, naivete, as if one couldn't guess, is only interesting until I've said it all. At any minute now, I'll say it all. Wait. When I see myself in the future, which I try not to do, I think of someone like Fabian, my 1950s equivalent, who seems like heaven on earth in old film clips, but, when you see him in person today, he is a stooped, sagging child. He haunts the world, making folks like my mother, who claims she once swooned at the thought of him, whiten at how drab her youth looks in retrospect. On the bright side, This means I'm a siren. I lure children into adulthood by mouthing inanities like, I love you, when what I actually mean is, you'll die someday. I'm totally evil. I want them to die. I don't mean any of this. I'm daydreaming. I find myself standing on stage in a beautiful pin spot. I finish belting out one of my hits. From out of the shadowy sea of excitable kids climbs an older man. I think he's planning to rush up and hug me, but he draws a knife from his pocket. Before I can step back, he's slashed at my face. Blood spatters onto his shirt. He carves and uses his fingers to pull back the loose skin until my whole skull is exposed to the air, and the flesh hangs in waves around my neck like a Shakespearean collar. Then he steps back and squints like an artist appraising his work. I feel nothing, though I'm a little surprised when he shakes his head and sighs, "No, I wanted something else." Enough of that. Now I'm posed on a set that's supposed to look human. Trash can to my left, graffitied wall to my right. I'm in the middle like Diana Ross, but I'm too insecure to sing. I'd only start making things up, such as I'm a night person. I sneak through dark alleyways, a slender shadow observing the rapes, robberies, and lewd behavior of average Joes. I know what everyone really feels, and I respect that ambiguous inch between facial expression and soul. Is that Dad's voice yelling? Dinner, Dave? No. Where was I? Lies are so hard to keep track of. It's like you're constantly being reborn every time you begin a new sentence. Hey, I've got an idea. Remember that song I sang a few minutes ago about how great I look? Here's the disco mix. My shoulders seem like a clothes hanger. I mean that as a compliment. They're very delicate. Think of the Golden Gate Bridge, which also tells you how handsome my tan is. My chest is bony. My stomach's so flat I sometimes joke I was born without entrails. My cock and balls are my own business. My ass has a permanent haze over it, like San Francisco or a dance floor. I can't see it. I only see images it suggests, say a Fabergé egg, the North Pole, or a half-open door. My legs are reliable, to be unpicturesque for a moment. I draw an intimate portrait of my darling feet, but my dad's yelling, "Dinner, Dave!" My feet look like dinner plates. How's that? I'm back. I'm at dinner. My mom's sitting just to my left and my dad's on the other side of the table. He's a biologist. The house is full of these posters of nude boys and girls, all of whom have a chunk of flesh cut from their bodies. I hope they're just paintings. Dad not only loves to look into these wounds, he has memorized what's there. Somebody long ago named all these horrid blue tubes like they were pets. I guess that explains why I grew up averting my eyes from life's scary parts. For instance, over my dad's shoulder, I'm trying not to distinguish a boy about my age. His back is turned, and where his ass used to be, there's this thing that looks like half-drawn curtains, and half like what's left of a cow once it gets to the butcher's shop. I've cut my quiche into 8,000 pieces. My dad could care less. He's too interested in the world. When he locates me in it, he holds up the newspaper page and says, "Look, Dave." It's usually some piece using fame as a metaphor for how ridiculous things can become. I used to sulk, run upstairs, come back down, stab myself with a rubber knife. Now I cut the reviews out and scotch tape them into a scrapbook. I place compliments and cruel remarks on facing pages. Then I compare the impressions I leave. The critics who hate me are fairly articulate. The ones who adore me are shallow and indirect. What is a dreamboat, exactly? Why won't my champions say what they mean? All they do is describe me again and again in forgettable gushes. I wish I could talk to somebody about this. I know that's what parents are for. But the one time I felt strong enough to express myself fully, I came downstairs, tiptoed into the den, they were watching TV, and started saying how spooky it was to be worshipped by people with no taste, and how my voice was so tuneless and weak it took hours of studio trickery to make me listenable, and how my beauty was nothing but gift wrapping, that I was crazy and empty and... Know what I mean, Mom? Dad? That's what I said at the time. Mom stuck her face in her gin glass. Dad just chirped, "Dave, rest assured your imagination is famous, at least in this household." Imagine my death for a second. Them standing over my grave thinking, We should have believed in him. That's what I think as I sit at the table tonight. If I was sure I'd be a legend in memory, I'd run upstairs, lock my door, and, well, I don't know what I might do, but it'd be serious. Trouble is, I'm dispensable. I try so hard to dig into myself, find blue anecdotes worth the world's time, but I just end up rattling on, using lie after lie to draw people's attention. Someone's ringing the doorbell. I know who it is. There's this boy at school, George, who I want to be friends with. He's terrific to look at, like me, and I have this idea if we sit and explore one another, both talk-wise and physically, that'll quell you-know-what. It's still out there. I open the door, lead him into my room, and flip the TV on to warm the place up a bit. We watch cartoons for a half hour. Whenever I glance at him, his face is so serious. It's as if we've tuned into a news program. Mine too, I imagine. Actually, I watch him much more than I do the screen. It's amazing to be with someone who doesn't stare at me like I was taking my clothes off in front of a backdrop. When we start to chat, I detail myself. He seems impressed by the comings and goings. Of course, I lie, since my schedule holds no tasty gossip. But even the wildest parts have an innate truth. You could say they were clarifications, like when you blow up a photograph until you see the ordered pattern of dots which compose it. Floored as I may become in description, I'm always simplistic deep down. Or I assume I am. That's what he's here to prove. But I've babbled much too long, and his eyelids are lowering over his eyes, as mine must be as well. Listen, he yawns, once I stop for a breath. Do you want to have sex or not? That's too blunt. Or is it? Would I ever say something so harsh? Well, I'm willing to try. Yeah, let's fuck, I say. We have exactly the same high-pitched, colorless voices. And when we take off our clothes, the parallels are unnerving. We become two little ghosts wearing human masks, nothing to look at below the neck, but sort of too cute from there up. Nevertheless, I reach my hand down and play with his highlights. I hate the fact that human bodies are warm. I think they should either be ice cold or have no temperature whatsoever, like pieces of paper. Weird posters your dad's got downstairs. What? I say. Oh, let's not think about them. But it's too late. I have my palm around his cock and balls, and it strikes me that, whether he thinks so or not, it looks like someone cut a hole in his body, and this is what gushed out. He's fondling mine with a real penetrating expression. If he had a pipe in his mouth, and his face filled out slightly, then dropped an inch, he'd be my father in front of his valuable diagrams. He actually seems to be learning a thing or two, whereas I only see stuff his groin reminds me of. Rotten fruit, a deflated balloon, ring of keys, stalactite. Enough of this. I'm standing in front of a mirror, one hand on my genitals. I wish it were that simple. I mean, you know, like I'm being watched, as if the whole world is watching, like protesters said in the 60s, when I wasn't born yet. It wants me invisible. No. It wants my skin in a heap on the floor, and a teetering skeleton smeared with blood. I can't imagine that. As far as I'm concerned, everything's out in the open. I won't become more realistic than this. I'm going to stand here a while, bow my head, close my eyes, like we're told to in school when someone famous has died, and that's it. My mind's a total blank. Is a minute up yet? Fine. Now it's my turn. I'm going somewhere where things transform into teensy, unreachable stars. Make that glitter, that look kind of sweet, but you don't have to think about what they imply. Bye, world. I stare at the walls. They start growing in every direction until my whole room is a mile wide and deep at least. I decorate it with thousands of blue plastic seats, and them with expectant young faces. My bed's growing too. It resembles a stage. Set discreetly on top, I envision a figurine bathed in a spotlight. It's holding a microphone in its right hand. It starts to open its mouth. I can't wait to completely refill myself with its opaqueness. Hi, it's nice to be back. You look perfect. So, how do I look? 10,000 boys and girls, mostly the latter, respond. They seize any chance to reflect what I've given them. I give them love in a form they can understand, but all they seem to be able to do in return is howl like some immense dog. In thanks, I shake a few hands that jut out of the darkness. My touch ripples back through the concert hall until the whole room is howling again. That's enough love for now. I think you know this first song. Sure they do. Howl, they say, as I position myself center stage, formalizing our balanced relationship. Behind my back there are 5 men. Each is in charge of a musical instrument. I think of them as machinery. I turn them on with a prearranged signal. My glance usually does the trick. They were chosen to structure my background because they're proficient and ugly, qualities which reinforce my distinctiveness. They represent the world, slightly romanticized. My job involves a belief in our metaphor, something I've never achieved, but the fact that I've dreamt up an interesting script seems to satisfy all concerned. Here comes the part where I have to act human. You were alone when we met, and your smile told me something I'll never forget. With your hand held in mine, I will never forget our very first time. Now I remember why I took this role in the first place. It's a great place to hide, much like being invisible. Kids don't have any idea what's in front of them. If I could read their minds, it would go something like this. He's so cute and romantic and lonely. He makes me think love is a virtuous thing. One day I'll bump into him and explain that I know how he feels. He'll be amazed by my clarity. Suddenly all the anonymous yous in his songs will be filled with my name. He'll cry. We'll run off together. The sun will shine. Blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, I'm thinking how silly they are not to look in the obvious place. Here. I'm right here, inside this. Our love is forever. I'm there when you call. Just believe in our first time. That's all, that's all. I finish my part of the number. The band plays the melody all by themselves. I bow my head, the idea being I'm too emotional. Cue the howl. Now, I raise my chin. Let them know all's not lost. I expect to see blinding lights, but what I actually find is a girl running at me, full speed. I step aside just in time, and she flies by my right shoulder, crashing into the bass player. He and the girl look embarrassed. He throws her away. She hurls around, trying to spot me. A bodyguard drags her astonished face into the darkness. Howl. Thanks very much. Do you like to dance? I do. I prove my point, begin bouncing all over the stage in a vaguely symmetrical pattern. The band tries to recreate one of the cuts on my latest LP. Its lyrics are hard to invest with sincerity. Don't sit at home, go out, show the world what you're all about. The real me would never relax like this. Pretending that love's just a matter of asking for help is a big enough lie in itself, but trying to make kids believe they can wipe away all their troubles by shaking their hips? Well, it's just an excuse to display my ass. I'm wearing skin-tight white pants. The assembled scream shrilly, like they've seen a ghost, but they're probably thinking of snowfall or cats. When I was a little boy, there was this band called The Doors. Their lead singer, like me, was aware that his fans were in love with whatever he did. But, unlike me, his fans were horny adults. When they looked at his body, they actually wanted to fuck it. One time at a concert, he thought, let's give them what they want. He pulled down his pants, or so the story goes. There was the truth. Cock, balls, ass. But instead of gang raping him, his fans got bored and stopped buying his records. He put on weight, went to Paris, and kicked off. I could repeat his mistake, but I won't. Well, let's just say it's a fleeting temptation. The song's over. Sometimes I feel so alone, but just knowing you're there makes me happy. This song's dedicated to you. Each of the stage lights, excluding a pin spot aimed right at my face, fades to black. My head's a moon shining down on their dreamy thoughts. When I'm low, when I can't think of which way to go, you're somewhere out in the crowd. Yes, I know. I didn't write these ingenious words. They were sold to me for an unquotable price, then I rehearsed them until they appeared to describe my emotions. But if their emotions were mine, I wouldn't be where I am. I'd be out in the audience, familiarizing myself with the way I feel, instead of processing somebody else's cliches. I guess it's a testament to my intelligence that I can edit myself out of life, though it leaves me a little upset by the sight of my own shadow. Who does it really belong to? This mannequin I'm so adept at portraying, or... Time for another hit. This one's a toughie. I've been able to squeak my way through so far, but this melody's too difficult for my voice. Backstage, 3 men are hunched over a top-secret microphone, singing along with me. When the tune arcs too high or dips too low, I move my lips, and they fill in the hole with a passionate wail I'm incapable of. My fans, excited by this seeming burst of emotion, jump out of their seats and pack themselves up against the stage. I slink about an inch or two from their grasp. There's a place in my heart that nobody can see, and it tears me apart when you look at me. Suddenly a chubby girl leaps on stage and heads for me. When she's a few feet away, she realizes I'm lip-syncing, skids to a stop, and claps her hand to her mouth. Just then a bodyguard grabs her around the waist. Howl! That was close. 5 songs to go, with some patter between. The first 4 go smoothly. I mouth their shallow ideas with the help of my mystery voices, and punctuate the procession with handshakes, brief flashes of my famous backside, some spins, 8 blown kisses. When I get to the ballad, I pick out a girl who looks especially moved, and allow her to guess she's the you of my lyric. I'm always embarrassed to use this trick. It seems the slightest bit evil. All the loneliness she's ever felt explodes out of her eyes. Don't let it end here, she undoubtedly thinks. You're the one I've been waiting to meet. Love was a dream, now it's so sweet. For the rest of the concert, she grins at me knowingly, as if she's in on the hoax. How pathetic. I'll never forget tonight. You've been my favorite audience. It's hard to say goodbye, but... They howl. I start the last number, my biggest hit to date. Saying goodbye without asking why, yet I'll always remember you until the day I die. That encapsulates it. And, though I'm so tired I practically creak through my dance steps, I know they no longer care how good I am. They're blending in with my wallpaper pattern. But as they dissipate, there's an attempt to embrace me. It's some older man, clambering onto what's left of the stage. Where's my bodyguard? The man draws a knife from his pocket and floats over. Luckily, before he gets very far, he turns into my table lamp. I reach out and turn it off. I'm completely exhausted. The world is pitch dark and ambiguous, unlike my audience. I cross its mind and it stops what it's doing for 2 or 3 minutes, in awe of what it would undress were it granted one wish. I lie inside what it thinks of me, an expensively wrapped gift, wishing somebody would open me up and let us know if I'm really a famous young singer, or little more than a gag. Or am I just a bomb, a shiny thing crammed with blood, guts, and bones, whose tiny word balloon reads, "Don't get close"? I'm going to cry if I keep this up. Any minute now there will be a knock at my door. My dad will stumble in, bump his way through the furniture, kiss my forehead, thinking I'm fast asleep, and say good night in a gin-soaked voice. Because my eyes will be closed, I'll imagine it's anyone, everyone, wishing me well. It'll distract me from my repetitive thoughts for a second. He'll sort of open his mouth and whisper something so gentle and thoughtless I'll actually fall asleep, lulled by the sound. That amazes me. Right now I can say it's a trick, but when he's here, I'll be inert. Until then, here's what I want. Love. Specifically, I want the power to make people love me. Maybe a secret word which I'd only use when I saw someone special. I'd walk up to him or her, say that word, and he or she would be very in love with me. Then, if they ever got bored, there'd be another word that would cancel the spell, wipe their memories clear of me. I could be anywhere, and when I saw someone special, I'd walk up to him or her, say the word, and he or she would forget what they'd planned to do. If I said, "Come home with me," they'd follow. We'd be together right now, in this very bed. What could I offer them? Here's a list. Nervous, wealthy, at home, half asleep, cute, confused. That's as far as I get. Oh, contrived and talkative. I guess those words also go in there. Now I'm supposed to take that puny list, stretch it out like a tight wire, and walk very slowly across. Or something. I'll probably dream that I'm doing so, if I can fall asleep. Then I'll wake up and see this bedroom again. The end. I like how in movies that phrase will just suddenly appear at a certain point. Most children worship a statue of some guy nailed up on a cross. I worship the end. It's a great concept. I'm talking in circles. That's not a clever ploy, really. Maybe somewhere in the back of my mind I hope speaking like this might hypnotize the world, so I can slip away. But first of all, I'm just limited. No matter how I extend myself, I don't get closer to who I am, which, I admit, is my ultimate goal. I could look into a mirror all night, or lie here, eyes shut, projecting my body all over the place, and I'd still wind up making things up until death has been slammed in my face. That's pretentious. I've been pretending my whole life. As a baby, I'd do anything for a pat on the head. As a boy, I would act out my father's appraisals. Cute, darling, doll face, exquisite. As if they were simple commands, since those words were the only things I had to play with. In my early teens, boys and girls flocked around. When I asked them why, they gave out long strings of adjectives. Ditto now, except my new friend, that nemesis, is so vague I can't understand what it says when it tries to dissect me. All I feel, like I said, is this fear which I'm learning to live with. What other choice have I got? That guy George, my parallel self, or whatever? Next time I see him at school, I'll go over and try to be boyfriends. I realize I'm deluded. Sure, he's a new place to check my appearance in. Maybe our slight resemblance has something to say for itself. But I'm sure if I get too close, do the explorer bit, I'll find the same old stuff. Blood, guts, bones, not much else. I could pick through that mess for the rest of my days without any results, despite what my dad thinks. He also thinks beauty is useless fluff. He scribbled that in the steam on my mirror once. Honest. I just heard the door open. Someone is walking unsteadily through the dark. Must be my father. In some ways, I wish it was anyone else, but I'm so wired it seems like the only way I'll ever sleep is if he does what I've come to love. There's that word again. I shouldn't use words I don't understand. I should just let it happen. Footsteps, the begging around as he hits certain pieces of furniture, and now the smell of gin close to my face. He kisses me. His voice sounds half-hearted when he says goodnight, but there's no one else here, so it must be the truth, insincere or not. Does that make any sense? I'm going under. Before I do, here's a very last song, though I'm too tired to give it much gusto. It's about me, and I wrote it myself. I know that's like saying a mannequin's smile has a basis in thought, but here goes. Once upon a time, I was a little boy. I rode my bike constantly. I wandered everywhere, bought stuff, sang songs to myself. I stopped in a mall. This man came up to me. He was an A&R man for a big record company. He told me I was amazing. I said okay, and we went back to his house. He tried to fuck me. I bled all over the place. Then he showed me the door and said, "Thanks for being so well designed, kid." That was supposed to be funny, but I was in pain for a month. I'm sure he doesn't remember the incident. Still, I can't forget. Maybe his gaze is what's sifting through me at the moment. I know that's too anticlimactic. Anyway, it's a pretty good song, right? It seems to have sprung from a life that was long and productive, and, with the same breath, it's quick-paced like mine. That's my guess. All it needs is a really spectacular ending, but I'm too exhausted to figure one out. The best I can do is the relative truth. I lie here on my bed, tossing this way and that in the stupid belief sleep will straighten me out. But first, I'll set the alarm.